So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation was
lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
I just simply know what the attorneys at the agency believed, that it was a misinterpretation. And I would note that those payments...
Could it be you were trying to hide behind the court, Governor?
Ouch. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison were back in the hot seat this week. The House Oversight Committee grilled them over the rampant fraud found in their state.
When did you personally become aware of the FBI investigation? That's all I'm asking.
Representative Emmer, as you know, I have addressed this issue many times.
Mr. Ellison, my concern is that you actively obstructed this investigation in exchange for campaign donations, a quid pro quo. If these concerns are proven to be true, you should be disbarred and you should go to jail.
The committee's report says Walz and Ellison knew about the fraud, lied about it, threatened retaliation against employees who spoke out. Joining us now is House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. All right, Chairman Comer, we're so happy to have you. Now, do you believe your committee's findings will result in any arrests? Because the American people are saying, we see the fraud, we know the fraud's there, we feel like Walz knew about it, we feel like Ellison knew about it. Who's going to have to pay the piper?
Well, I hope so. We've done the heavy lifting. We brought in all the whistleblowers from Minnesota. These were career state employees. Almost all of them were registered Democrats. They've been blowing the whistle about fraud for years. They testified under oath in our transcribed interviews that they knew about the fraud. They had repeatedly warned both Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, and they were told to stand down. One even went so far as saying they were retaliated against for continuing to blow the whistle on the fraud. So we have that evidence. That was in the report. We gave Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison due process. They had the ability to defend themselves, and they couldn't defend themselves. So now we have the report. On the other side, Pam Bondi's Department of Justice, according to many interviews Pam Bondi's done on TV, they're on the ground in Minnesota interviewing and trying to bring in people that were committing the fraud, the actual people that we've seen in the videos that were running the daycares, that were ripping off the food programs, that were ripping off Medicaid. The Department of Justice is on the ground doing that. We want to work with the Department of Justice. Obviously, the Department of Justice is the one that will have to prosecute, but we've done our end. Our investigation was to determine whether or not Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison knew about the fraud, and the answer is a definitive yes. So this will be in Pam Bondi's court, and hopefully we can work together with what we've done and what they're doing as we speak on the ground in Minnesota and prosecute a bunch of people.
Chairman, you brought up Pam Bondi. That's a topic that's pretty hot today. She's been subpoenaed to come in and testify on the frustration over the release of what a lot of people say she's slow-walked and even over-redacted the Epstein files. 5 Republicans, I guess, defected or went along with Democrats to vote to bring her in. Was it necessary to subpoena her, and why isn't that something that everyone on the committee was in favor of?
Well, I've been trying to do this diplomatically. I've been sending word to the Department of Justice that they need to turn over the documents. I don't think anyone in America would agree that this has been a very good rollout by the Department of Justice. The American people want to know what's in the Epstein files. The American people want to see justice done. The American people don't want to see big, wealthy people get away with crime. So we're trying to work with the Attorney General. I didn't want to subpoena her. My committee voted to do that. We had 5 Republicans that voted with the Democrats. I think the 5 Republicans on my committee, their heart is pure. I think a lot of the Democrats, they just want to embarrass President Trump. But at the end of the day, we're going to try to get every document. Now, I will defend the Attorney General. They have to make decisions on what to redact and what not to redact. And the hard thing in this Epstein criminal investigation and what the Department of Justice has with the documents is there are women who were both victims and victimizers. That means they were brought in, they were abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Then he turned them into being people to recruit other women to come in. So the question is, should the victimizers' names who were once victims, should they be redacted or not? And the Attorney General and the Department of Justice thus far thinks they should, because the attorneys for the victims think their name should. Many people on my committee don't think they should be redacted. So we're having conversation back and forth. We're trying to get the information for the American people and the information we need for the investigation. I think Pam Bondi's been working with us, not at the speed we would like, but hopefully we'll be able to get all of this, and hopefully she can come in and answer questions as to where we are with the document release and what, if anything, the Department of Justice is doing to try to prosecute anyone.
Thank you.
Chairman, this is Alicia Acuna. Thank you so much for being here. Turning to the war in Iran, the House voted against the War Powers Resolution that would have limited the president's ability to fight Iran. Chairman Comer, you were one of the votes against it. Do you think this conflict will end soon?
I sure hope so. I trust the president. We're believing in the president. Many Republicans are like myself. We're not fans of endless wars. We're not fans of regime change. We don't have a lot of trust or confidence in the intelligence community, but I do have confidence in President Trump and the Secretary Hegseth and Kash Patel and John Radcliffe and those guys. They say this needed to be done. This is supposed to be a quick mission. In this, look, there are consequences for President Obama's failed foreign policy, and this is one of them. None of us would want to have to support anything going on in Iran now, but the truth of the matter is Obama's foreign policy put us in this position, and I support the president. Hopefully this will be a quick mission.
Mr. Chairman, just to take things out to a more macro level, as far as it's now obviously March of 2026, in, let's say, 7 months, we're going to have the midterms, as you know very well. And right now, Democrats don't have to do great in the midterms. They have to win back about 3 or 4 seats. And let's face it, it's really 2 or 3 seats, because Thomas Massie might as well join the squad at this point, because he votes with them more than he'll ever vote with any Republican. All of that said, what does the landscape need to look like going into Election Day for Republicans to hold the House and avoid House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, and then therefore the president being in impeachment for perpetuity, basically?
Well, I think we need to support the president. The president's got an America First agenda. It's unfortunate that we have Republicans, a few in the House, you mentioned one, and then several in the Senate that don't work with this president. I think we need to pass the SAVE Act in the Senate. The House has done that. The Senate's going to have to find a way to do that. That is, I think, the priority of many Republicans who might not turn out. They don't have a history of turning out. The ones that, always turn out for President Trump and only turn out for President Trump, they want to see the SAVE Act passed. So I think it's imperative that we find a way in the Senate to get that bill passed. But at the end of the day, the Democrats don't have an agenda. They have one thing they're campaigning on, and that's their hatred of Donald Trump. I think it's going to depend on the economy. We're trying to do everything we can to focus on affordability issues. The president's bringing interest rates down. Hopefully after the Iran conflict, gas prices will continue to go back down like they were before the conflict. We're doing everything we can to focus on making housing more affordable. And I think that these are the issues the American people consider most important when they go vote, and these are the issues that are championed by the Republican Party.
Chairman James Comer, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.